I got a tax return to review yesterday, and it kind of pissed me off because the numbers didn't match. It felt like I was on a scavenger hunt. So I'm like going through, again, not my strong suit, but I'm going through and I'm like, okay, what was that expense account? What is that? And why is that off by $12,000? Like, we showed this and they will put this. I don't get it. 3 months ago, she sent me an email. She's like, did you end up buying a property when you went on that trip to Mexico? And I said, no, the cost, we ran the analysis, it didn't make any sense. So we didn't get anything. She said, oh, okay, cool. There was also multiple reasons for the business trip. Like, we were creating content, shot a bunch of videos to attract clients, to do advertising, ran some ads and did the whole thing from Mexico.
Yeah.
And that's where like 11,000, something like that, of the dollars that she disallowed. Me and an employee spent an hour and a half finding it. And you never told me in that email. And then you sent an invoice for $11,000 for my tax preparation. That just doesn't work for me. That's not like, you should have told me then, and I can give you more context to the trip. And instead you're like, are you working for the IRS? You didn't send them the invoice for $11,000. So what the hell, man?
No, I know. So like that just goes to asking questions and getting people comfortable enough, because so many people are scared to ask a question. Like, okay, if you don't feel right about something, whether it's right or wrong, like just ask, because if it's right, then you'll understand it.
Correct. Yeah. And now I know beyond a doubt that if it's a rental property and if I go on an exploratory trip to potentially procure more rentals, I have to acquire the property in that year, put it into service, and only then can I add it to my basis. I can't even expense it. It's just none of those things I knew, but I had to find that out on my own. And so I sent, that was the EA who works for the CPA, and I sent the CPA an email, and I'm like, this is BS, man. I've been paying you for 15 years, and I would have expected that email to come back in response to, oh, you didn't buy a property? Well, guess what? And then you tell me why. What? And then I said, oh, but there was more. Did we book it wrong? Like, I want to solve the problem, not just lose the deduction, pay you a bunch of money. And now.
Yeah, because you could have moved it to your other.
Totally. Like, what starts that process? I mean, the tax return for that entity was probably like 50 pages. I don't understand hardly any of it. Like page 2, I get that. I can go through the, but the rest, it's like, dude, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure that out, there were so many times that I was almost like, the last year was a mess. Just sign it, be done. Like, I just wanted to, but that's a difference of $11,000 of tax deductions just in one issue. And now I'm like, okay, got to look for more issues because we're not done.
I had one client, he was totally disconnected from his numbers, and he went to go sell his business. And, they asked for the books, and the books were a disaster. And the CPA involved with the exchange or whatever was like, you need Casey. So he sent me the books, and I found out that all the income for the year was duplicated. So he literally thought he made, $750,000 or something. And I'm like, no, you actually, he paid, it was like $75,000 in taxes too much because all of his income was duplicated, but he had no idea.
It's tough to find some of those things. And that's why I'm talking to Casey here, because there's all these things that just continue to take money out of my coffers that limit my ability to redeploy resources into the other problems that I solve. So it's critical. If you don't have an understanding and you don't feel like you can ask your tax preparer or your bookkeeper what's going on, because my tax return was almost 50 pages for that entity. And it intimidates the crap out of me. And I just didn't even know where to begin. And so now I've got to go through that work. And thankfully I've got somebody like Casey that can help me kind of asking the right questions to get the answers to make sure I'm doing things right.
Well, and a lot of times when you get the tax returns prepared, they send you the form to sign, and you can just see whether you're getting a refund or whether you owe. It's just a basic page.
Yes.
And so the tax return is separate. It's in a different file. You have to go review, but they just want you to sign. So just taking the extra few minutes, pulling up your copy before you sign and being like, okay, this all makes sense. And maybe it's just the first 2 pages you're looking at. Okay, is the income look okay? Does the deductions look okay? Do I have all my things that I know that should be there, basically?
And this process you may cringe at this, Casey, but the way I do it is I pulled up the tax return. I look at those first couple pages because that's about the only thing that makes anything close to sense to me. But I look at those first couple pages and then I sit down with my bookkeeper and say, okay, let's go. Because I don't really know what I'm doing even on those 2 pages, but at least it's like total gross income. Okay, let's open the books. Did that number match? And I think in ours, it was within like $3,500. I'm like, okay, good enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I'm not going to, there's reasons that some of that may change. Maybe there was an invoice that something booked wrong. Like, I know from experience that there's journal entries after the returns are done that make things balance all the way. So when it's within that level, again, that might be not the best way to do it. And I don't think an accountant would be like, oh yeah, as long as it's close, you're good, but that's how I do. But then I got down to expenses and that's where it was off. Honestly, it was off like $87,000. And I was like, whoa, hang on. But then I looked, the first thing that I identified in seeing those expenses were off is there were a bunch of expenses that got recorded inside of a business entity that were personal, and our books marked them as personal. So I just went through, I don't know, maybe there was 200 transactions over the course of the year, and I grabbed probably 5. I just scrolled down, like, click that one. Oh yeah, that was personal. Okay, scroll. Okay, click that one. And I just randomly grabbed 5, and every one of them, I could recognize the transaction, the vendor, the amount, the dates. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I see what happened. So that was $30,000, I think. So there's $30,000 of expenses that had just been paid inadvertently by an entity that were really, so we moved those over to the balance sheet. The accountant did that right. But I want to know that if my expenses are much lower, then why? Did I do something wrong? Did the bookkeeper do something wrong? Or is there some rule that I don't know about? Am I spending money inside my business thinking that it's a tax deduction and it's not? Because if I don't know that, I sure as hell want to change my behavior.
Yeah.
Because, all these things can affect me having just a little bit better results this year compared to last year, right?
Yeah. It's also like you mentioned earlier, like this was the first year she had done your return. So like it's super important, especially when you're dealing with somebody new, like you're all on the same page. And what I found helpful too, like as a bookkeeper accountant working with businesses, is when I'm in contact with the CPA, they can reach out to me for questions, or I can reach out to them for questions like, hey, we're going to buy this. Like, how does this look? Should we wait till next year? Or,
For sure. Yeah.
Help in that process. It's become valuable to like my clients too, where like all 3 of us are involved, and it's not just like, well, what did your CPA say? Like, I don't remember the words. Like, he said something about, payroll and owner's draw. And I'm like, I don't know the numbers. Like, what? So just like keeping the communication loop open so that everybody's on the same page.
It's so critical. That's why I have standing quarterly calls with my CPA, just so there's, I mentioned to you, I think, the story of my wife sliding off the road with a leased vehicle. And that was right about the end of the year, right at the end of the lease. And I wasn't going to do anything about it. But because I was having one of those calls with my accountant and just telling him what was going on, he informed me of accelerated depreciation and that I need to go buy a new vehicle. And if I could close and take delivery on before the end of the year, that it would do X, Y, and Z to my tax. So I went car shopping right away.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of difference on my tax year that year.
Yeah.
Without that call, I would have just, called insurance and let them do their thing and gotten around to getting a new car maybe in the next
January.
month or 2. Yeah, there's no big deal. I wasn't even thinking that way at all.
Yeah.
So I'm talking like $75,000 swing in taxes that year because of that conversation. Like, that's real money. You know what I mean? And if somebody that's what's so bizarre, that as entrepreneurs, we don't speak the number language, and it's such a different language, but it's a money language. So if we have people like Casey, I like the trifecta, right? There's the entrepreneur, there's the CPA, and then there's the bookkeeper that keeps things organized. You need all 3 involved in the process.
Yeah.
And without all 3, then that's a little disconnected, and you can open up the doors to potentially some fraudulent, if you don't have all 3, you checking and balancing and being aware of the situation,
Yeah.
then you can get into some real nasty stuff where bad apples could get into the scene and really mess things up.
Yeah. No, I've seen it so often. One thing I love about like protect your profits, it could be fraud, it could be tax savings. There's so many different ways that your profit can leave. Working with people that can assist you in making sure you keep your money.
So let's
Yeah.
run through those things. Like, what are the ways that you would suggest? Is that your 4 Ps?
Yeah. So planning. So budgets, forecasting, setting goals, like seeing where you're at and what your trajectory is. Another thing is your processes, like who's your bookkeeper? What does she have access to, or he, and who else is in the mix? Who's doing the invoices? Making sure there's like different steps. Like, are you opening your bank account statement so you can see like, oh yeah, this looks right, or you have $5 in your account when you should have 50,000.
Yeah. That's one thing that again, not a numbers guy, but right on the heels of a massive, I was taking advantage. My bank accounts went down to about $2,000 from millions. And then it was only then that I started piecing things back together. And I honestly don't even know how much the total was, because we found over 200 shell companies that were created by another individual, where monies were just 5,000 here, 27,000 there, 16 over here. So we don't even know if we found all the shell companies. That's how many we did find. And some of the payments, there was everything then led offshore and to these different places. Like, it was quite a complicated scheme. And there's just a matter of is it worth it to us to really try to track 100% perfection, or can we just get enough? My goal was to pay the back taxes, get out of there, and not,
and,
I guess not
and
go to
just
prison,
put it
at the end
behind
of the
you
day.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I realized just how stupid I had been, I started looking at the bank statements. You triggered that thought, because I kept getting paper statements until just a year or two ago. Now I do this electronically.
Yeah.
But the paper statements would trigger me to have a process run. And I would open the papers. Sometimes I'd let them stack up for a month, or sometimes even 2, if I'm being honest. But then I would open them and I'd sit down, usually on a weekend, and I would just look at the top line. I'd look at the bottom line, and I'd make sure that they balanced and that the things were there. And I would just do an audit of the
Yeah. Is there
transactions that were
anything
there.
weird that
Yeah.
shouldn't be there, or you don't know what it is?
Yeah. And when I say the word audit, I don't even know what the hell that word really means, other than I don't want one.
Yeah.
And what I did was just look randomly at transactions and look for things that seemed out of place. So if all the bills are going through my bank account, and that's the other system, the process that I put in place was, people can set up my payments, but I have to approve them. So
Yes.
now I go in and I can approve every payment, and even the $25 ones I'm approving, because I can see the vendor and that. So if I'm doing that through the week, and then I look at my bank statement at the end of the month, and the top and the bottom numbers match, and I've done the approvals through the week, I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
It's a short 1.0 process. Now, if there's a vendor that's on there that I get hey, you need to approve this bill pay for 10 grand, and it's a vendor I don't recognize, I can say, wait a minute, who's this?
Yeah.
And Casey, we actually had one come through 2 weeks ago.
Is it through email?
Yeah, and it
Yes.
looked so good. My bookkeeper was
It
about
looked
to set up the
so
payment.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it looked
they
like it was from me.
happen all the
There was a
time.
W-9, there was wire instructions, there was everything, a whole email thread between me and this person, and then it looped in my bookkeeper. And
Yep.
said, oh, here's this. Looked like it was from me to the bookkeeper saying, see the thread below, set up the payment, $26,000.
Yeah. No,
And she
they've
was
gotten
bringing
like,
it to me for approval. Like, okay, I'll set up this payment today. I'm like, well, payment? Hold up. Hey, have you
Yeah.
ever heard this name before? Like, which
Yeah.
she didn't do it, but that's like, it looks so good. So you got
no,
to be
they've
careful.
like, we actually see it all the time. And, the best resource is where it came from, like the email. But they've even figured out like they'll miss like one letter out or something of the
And your
email.
brain just like skips over that if you're
Yeah.
doing it quick.
So
Yeah.
we run payroll, and we've had it before where somebody sent in, oh, it's this employee. It came from this employee. It passed through HR. that they were changing their bank account. And so we needed to change their direct deposit. And it went through HR. We got it from HR, like the paper, not the
Wow.
email, the
Mhm.
paper. And so we changed it because it came from internally and everything. But HR didn't realize that the fraud was it was happening to
Oh,
her.
so it tricked HR, and then HR ran it up the
Yes.
flagpole?
Yes. And so
Man, it's
it's out
crazy.
there.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
these stories about AI just sounding like somebody's voice and then
Yeah.
calling their mom, and their mom sends them $10,000 and it
Yeah.
wasn't
And
the
it was
person
never
at all,
her.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like,
great.
it's crazy. And so having some of those processes is so critical. And again, here's what I think entrepreneurs do. I think we are a special breed. I think we get up in the morning, we have no idea what the hell we're going to face, but we go out there and do it every single day. I've been doing
Yeah.
it for 22 years or something. And that's cool. But the downside to that is that we put lipstick on pigs and we make things look good, and we try to see the solution, down the road that may happen. And that creates some rose-colored lenses, where we don't always see what the downside is. And when we start thinking about numbers, we think to solve the problem, we need to be a master's level accountant, and so it's
Yeah.
like, here's the level that I'm at now. Here's where I should be. Whoa, that's a big gap to fill. So we just we think we're going to get to that, and we just stay busy with our email, or we make another sale, and you don't have to, you just, like, a process can be simple. It can be
Yeah.
very
No, it
basic,
could be so
and you
simple
can
as
catch,
opening your statement and
yeah,
just
and you can
reviewing it.
catch this stuff
Yeah.
before $27,000 goes out of your bank account,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I like embezzlement has showed up a lot in my life, like just doing what I do. I've been doing it for 23 years.
Uh-huh.
And it just in the last year, I feel like it's constantly been
Uh,
around. And so I'm like, I need to get out there and like teach
help
people and
people to, yeah,
educate and like,
yeah.
hey, just start asking questions. That's such
Mhm.
like a big thing. Don't be too scared
Yeah.
to
Yep.
ask somebody questions.
For
So
sure. Protection is the next P, right?
yeah.
Is
So
there more to that?
yeah, I mean, just having a good CPA with a tax strategy so you can hold on to more of your money. Nobody wants to give the government money. Like,
Uh-huh.
you're going to spend it way better than they ever will.
Uh-huh.
And just making sure you're have the right things insured, like your workman's comp is set up, or maybe your liability, and then just making sure you're structured correctly. Are you a sole prop? And so you're not protected personally because everything's attached to you as an
Yeah, right.
individual. I've worked with some of the best people and some of the worst people. So like I've seen it all, and just trying to be a good judge of character. And
Yeah.
just because somebody you feel like you should be able to trust them, most of the time it's somebody that's so close to you, you would never even
You're
think.
gonna love this. Okay, I got one for you on this
Okay.
one. The guy that I was in business with for many years that ended up draining all my bank accounts, and then I was in federal litigation and state court litigation, dozens of different cases for the next 4.5 years. One of the things that he told me probably 500 times over the course of, I mean, weekly, I would hear this multiple
Yeah.
times. And he would say, who you're in business with is the only thing that's more important than what you're in business to do. And he would tell me things like that and just continually work on assuaging any of the concerns, any of the fears, if I
Yeah.
began to just wonder, like, that seemed weird. Like, there was always those things just landing on my ears and in my brain from him strategically. And he was so close. Like, he would be in my home once or twice a week with my
Yeah.
kids and my wife and my
Yeah.
family. And I mean, it wasn't just somebody in a third world country trying to milk me out
Yeah.
of crazy,
And it's usually not like a brand new hire, right? It's
yeah.
somebody that has gotten your trust.
It felt like good people to me because that was part of the con. If I would have had those other P's in place, like, even if I missed one or two of the P's, the other two of the P's would have caught the situation and
Yeah.
shown me some of the malfeasance taking place
Yeah.
way earlier upstream that I could have addressed, handled, sidestepped, and been in a totally different outcome. It's just crazy to look back and think that that was almost 5 years, and that's all I really did. I didn't build things. I wasn't growing a business. I was trying to not lose my mind
Yeah.
while
No,
litigating
it's
the
it's
previous
exhausting. I can't
decade.
even imagine going through
Yeah.
that. I just know what, thousands of dollars does to people, so I can't imagine.
Yeah. When you're taken down to nothing, it's
Yeah.
it's stupid. I'm just starting to read this book though. It's called The Millionaire Mind. It's giving me something to think about. No, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And
I
it just
think I've
starts
heard
out
of
with,
that actually.
yeah, it starts out saying, people that come into money and they're not really ready for it, they'll lose money. And I've
Mhm.
heard of this concept again and again, but I started putting that lens on me. Like maybe there's things in my mindset that allowed or created or contributed to me just keeping my head buried in the sand. So I
Bingo.
got to address that
Yeah.
so that as I'm building again and rebuilding and doing the things I love to do, that this doesn't recreate, I don't want a 2.0 of that for sure. So I'm
Yeah,
going to,
no. I mean, that's a true key though, like, you are your biggest problem.
I could see that yesterday looking at that tax return. I'm looking at this tax return and it's multiple pages. And it's like, okay, here we go. And I could see myself about to just ruin myself. Like
Yeah.
it's like I had a little distance. And I just wanted somebody else to do it. I wanted to give up on it. I didn't want to deal with the numbers. I didn't want to find out. But then I just kept looking at that expense account and we're off like 80, 90,000 bucks between what the books show.
Mhm.
And my notes were literally on this notepad. That's what I
Yeah.
was noting. It's the size of my hand. It's not big. I wasn't in there to be a studious accountant. I didn't have a 10 key calculator, the whole bit. I just said, okay, let me grab my notepad. I grabbed that one and I'm like, okay, go to that entity. Let's see what the expenses are. Top line expense, top line revenue. I started adding those numbers up with my calculator on my phone. I'm like, why is it off by like 80, 90 grand? I think it was 87 or something. And then started looking into it. And that was one of the big changes was some travel expenses that were disallowed. And so like you said, you are your biggest problem. Like I know how badly I did not want to be there. I did
Yeah.
not want to have that conversation. I did not want to do those because all of them are like, this is not what you do. This is not, can't somebody else do this better than you and all this stuff. But without, I like your trifecta again. There's 3 points to this triangle. Like one
Yeah.
is me, one is my bookkeeper, one is my tax advisor. Like they have to be present. So without one of them, the person that prepared that tax return, they're trying to get through. They have a deadline of just a few days and, they didn't have the full picture of everything in those
Yeah.
expenses. She thought she saw it through one lens and thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's not allowable under this and this rule. But if she would have taken more time, so that's a process now that I need to change is we need to start doing my tax return in May, not September.
Yeah. That
So
that is helpful.
yeah. So we
But
have more time for this
happens
kind of
all the
stuff.
time, though.
Yeah. Um,
I
so
think
that's
the
part of the process that I learned. But again, I was so close so many times, just be like, F this, just sign it. Let's move on,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't even know, even though it doesn't match, it's not like I'm going to be able to figure out why it doesn't match.
Yeah.
But then I got to this clue and then that clue. And it's like, just stick with it and get my bookkeeper and my tax preparer. Everybody wants they want the best outcome
Yeah.
as long as you got the good
The
people.
good
Right?
people, yeah. I've worked with, IRS CPAs, so, like,
Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, that definitely resonates that we can be our biggest enemy to ourselves and
yeah.
we just need to keep, I think it's just a part of the process. And I talk about this when I work with people is the thing that got you up to here, from A to B is usually
Won't
your
get you.
passion. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you started your business because it lights you up. You're baking cookies and you love cookies, or you're
Yeah.
out there coaching people because you love coaching people. But
Yeah.
the goal from B to C requires a new set of skills. And part of those skills is a planning process so that you can, and looking at your people process and
Yeah.
looking at how to protect things as that wealth grows. Doesn't mean you have to be a financial advisor or a CPA. It means you got to get your head out of your butt and spend a few minutes working on things that are not as fun so that you can develop some skills and level up.
Well, I mean, just a key takeaway from just this short story you've told is you were willing to ask question. Like,
Yeah.
it was a new CPA who hadn't worked with her, like, it could have been totally annoying, like, "Oh, I don't wanna have to," like, I totally get it, but just that you're willing to ask a question, which takes
Yeah.
humility.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun and it wasn't easy. And I just wanted that on the record. Like, I didn't want to, but I stuck with it. And now I'm glad that I did, because not only can I talk to you about it and learn more, I learned more about tax stuff, which is not something I want to know, only to the extent that I want to know how to lessen it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want to decrease
Like, you
that.
just wanna
So,
understand the basics. Yeah.
yeah. So if I'm going to go out of the door here and spend $100, and there's a way that I could do it that makes it fully within the scope of the IRS tax code to deduct that $100, but
Let's
if I
do that.
don't know what that process is and I spend $100 anyway,
Yeah.
then I'm the dummy for not doing it, right? For not
Yeah.
knowing those things. So I want to keep the responsibility on me to know how to invest, spend, and maximize
Protect. Yeah.
protect all of those things. You got it.
Yeah.